Chapter 22. Sane. Jasmine's perspective. Nicholas had gone over to a friend's house for the night. My mom was at work and Lypye was in jail. I, for one, loved the quiet, but hated being alone for too long. I heard a knock on the door. I opened it and Michelle walked in. Turned on the news. Hi, I said, confused. She turned on the news, then we both sat down on the couch. The report was about the attack on City Hall. The Syara Team was in a cage while King, Kim, and Carl worked on what appeared to be a giant-scale version of the laser they attacked Lypye and I with a few months earlier. So, they've escaped before, I commented. It was hard to tell with how far away the camera was, but it looked like Quintheria and Juaria were kneeling while Hyena was searching around the cage. This isn't just a cage with reinforced bars, Michelle explained. I've read about this before. That cage is like the jail cells that hold King and his team, but a lot more powerful. No power can be used inside the bars, and that includes levels below the bars. Understand? So, basically, there's a square throughout City Hall where no powers can be used, I asked. She nodded. I've never seen Lypye use something that powerful before. That's because it's not Lypye's plan, I mumbled before speaking up. Is there a way to power down the cage? She thought for a second. Once on, it's extremely hard to turn it off. Most likely, they're using the battery-powered one. With that power, the backup power, you're looking at a year before powering down. I sighed. Is there any way to let them out? The keys, she said. Sometimes it's the simple things. I've got to get those keys, I yelled, jumping up. Why you? She asked. You're one mortal against 3 immortals and a god. Even with your powers, you wouldn't stand a chance, not to mention keeping them a secret. The Syara Team, Lypye, King, Kim, and my mom know about my powers. I told Quintheria first, and I made sure not to mention you. The last thing I needed was sending the gods that were berating me onto you. She nodded. Doesn't answer my question. Why do you have to get the keys? I thought for a second. Going in alone would definitely be suicide, but I felt as though I had to do something. Something came across my thoughts. It was an insane idea, but it was the best one I had. We have to break Lypye out of jail, I mumbled. What? How do you know she's still? Because she's the one. She's there to protect me, I blurted out. She looked at me, confused, so I continued. Sarah Brown is Lypye Syara. Long story short, I hid her out of fear. We went from hating each other to friends and sisters. Kim and King threatened me as leverage to get to Lypye. I used my power to help save us, and Lypye turned herself in to protect me. Oh, and King, Kim, and Carl betrayed Lypye. She stared at me in shock. What makes you think she'll help save her siblings? A lot has happened since I met her. Plus, she can get revenge for fighting King, I pointed out. Okay, what's the plan? I leaned against the side of wall of the police station, the somewhat cold air at a steady breeze. It blew my braid lightly with it. I had changed into some black sweatpants and a black long-sleeved shirt that exposed a little bit of my skin near my stomach. Michelle and I were connected in a phone call, mine via Bluetooth earpiece. Remember what to do, right? I asked. I'm not exactly a hacker, but I can try, I sighed. I've seen you on a computer. You're a genius. I'm sure you can figure it out. Got it, she yelled. I think it was completely stupid of them to put remote control access to the electric off and on, I remarked. They had to after Lypye took the power of anything running on electricity as long as it was on, she pointed out. Yeah, too, and I quote, shock Karth into bowing before me. We both shared a laugh before I inched my way over to the edge of the building. Cut the power. Remember, because the chief has the key to keep the power off, you have about 5 minutes before the emergency power goes in. I peeked around the corner to see the lights slowly turning off, making it almost pitch black in there. I glanced around to make sure there weren't any cops outside, then quickly ran to the edge of the glass double doors. Peeking around the corner, I saw the front receptionist leap to the back, probably to check on the status of the electricity. I crouched down, slowly opening the door, and crouch walked inside. Slowly, I made sure the door closed silently, then I dashed over to the receptionist's desk, sitting on the floor to avoid being spotted, my heart now pounding as fear rushed in. How insane could I possibly be? I asked myself, slowly reaching for the gated door. Normally, I would have been buzzed in, but this door automatically unlocks and the power's out, so no one is trapped inside. I walked inside, then quickly ran into the broom closet, leaving the door open slightly. I'm in. Where do I go from here? I whispered. To the right of the entrance, there's a door marked as restricted access. Quickly and quietly go in there and take a sharp left. Be warned, going straight will lead to the electric panel. Avoid being caught, she instructed. I glanced through the door to make sure the coast was clear, then quickly ran over to the door. I quietly pulled on the door handle and slowly opened the door, poking my head inside, my heart now beating so hard that it could beat right out of my chest. Seeing the cops in the electric room, I quickly pulled my head out. My hand jerked on the handle instinctively, and I almost slammed the door shut, but stopped it short. This is crazy. After waiting a few seconds to make sure no one noticed that, I slowly opened the door, then quickly dashed through the door on my left. Quietly closing the door behind me, turning around, I noticed a 10-foot hallway leading to an open archway. The sign above read Immortal/God Holding Cells. I slowly crept up the archway, sliding along the left side of the wall. I spotted a single guard talking to someone in the cell. That has to be Lypye. Hearing a noise, I quickly ran into one of the cells. The emergency power came on and I tripped backwards, making a loud thud as I landed on the floor of the cell. What was that? I heard the guard say, walking over to the entrance of the cell I was in. Panicking, I used my powers to throw the guard against the wall behind him, knocking him out. I walked out of the cell, shaking. Sorry. Jess? I heard Lypye ask, shocked. I turned around slowly towards her. Hey, I chuckled nervously. She leaned on the bars, raising her eyebrows, clearly irritated. What are you doing here? She looked me up and down. What are you wearing? I grabbed the keys from the unconscious guard, then walked over to Lypye's cell, unlocking it. Breaking you out. I'd love to explain more, but no. Wait a minute. I want to be here to protect you, she reminded me. Like it or not, I'll be in danger regardless. I'm saving your siblings with or without you. Getting you seemed like the safer option. She looked at me, confused. Wait. Save my siblings? From what? I looked at the TV on the wall opposite from the cells. Do you know how to turn that on? She went to the back of the cell to the bed and pulled out a remote. Jory was afraid I would get bored and break out again. Turn it on channel 20 news, I instructed. She sighed and followed my instructions, finally stepping out of the cell. The news report flashed onto the screen, showing her siblings in the cage. Lypye shrugged. So, they've escaped a cage before. This isn't just a normal cage, though, I explained. Full neutralization. She whispered. I looked at her wide-eyed. Yes, I know of that kind of cage. King had discovered how to enhance the power of our cells, but I deemed it too extreme. Now that we're not working together, he must have decided to bring it back into the light. I crossed my arms. Worth breaking you out? No, but since you did, I will go with you. We walked out the door, running face to face with the receptionist. You're out of your cell, she exclaimed, backing up. Lypye raised her eyebrows. Yes, and I will remain that way until I take care of my mistake. Lypye pulled on my wrist, pulling me out of the police station. What mistake? I asked. Letting King and Kim go free. She responded, after getting banished, the only way for an immortal to get out of the land of immortals is by the help of a god. Karo is half-god, so he can leave on his own. My guess is that Lypye knew ways to get into the land of immortals. By the way, Lypye started, on our way home, we're discussing this outfit. Chapter 23, Plan, Lypye's Perspective. Seeing Jess for the first time in 3 months made me realize something. I'm a terrible influence. The clothes weren't necessarily the worst thing, but they definitely weren't her. Talking to her was worse. She had a big attitude and dropped snide remarks here and there. It felt like the way she was handling things was by becoming me. 7 months ago, she wouldn't have even had one thought about breaking me out of jail. Then again, 7 months ago, I didn't care enough about Jazz to stay in jail. We walked into the house, doors fully prepared. To the living room, I spotted Michelle sitting on the couch with a laptop. She glanced up, then immediately stood up. Oh, hello? I smirked. Relax, I won't hurt you. The real question is, what's the status with the Syara Team? Michelle sat down on the couch and began typing again. Jasmine sat down next to her, and I leaned on the arm of the couch, peering over her shoulder. On the computer, there appeared to be cameras. Wait a sec, are those the cams for City Hall? I asked. She nodded. I hacked into the whole system, but all I cared about was were the cameras and electricity. I looked at Jasmine. So why is she allowed to hack and I'm not? 2 reasons, she responded. First of all, she's using her own laptop. Second of all, she's not doing this for her personal gain. She's doing this for your siblings. I shrugged in agreement. Okay, Michelle continued. We're not going in blind. We need a plan. Here's my plan. You two stay here where it's safe, and I'll take care of the rest, I instructed. What? No! Jasmine blurted out. No, I'm going with you. Jazz. I walked over to her and put my hand on her shoulder. I'm not. She smacked my hand away. No! You're going up against 3 immortals who used to work for you and have your siblings. They know every trick you have. You need me. I grabbed her and yanked her to her feet. What are you going to do? I might have a plan if you could just trust me, she pleaded. I turned around, facing the wall. That's when I noticed something on the table. It shouldn't have bothered me, and it had nothing to do with the current events, but it still did. I slowly walked over to the little table and picked up a green sheet of paper. Wait, Lypye! She yelled, running over, trying to rip the paper out of my hand. I turned to stop her from grabbing it, then looked at it. It was her report card. No, the grades were too low. Wait, that was her name on it. Jazz, why are your grades so low? I looked back at her. She looked down, shuffling nervously, saying nothing. Jasmine, I pushed. This is not a way about going about things. You can't throw in the towel. It's called depression, Lypye. She clenched her hands into fists. And you've never let me have any say. You forced me to let you stay. You decided to go to jail without hearing me out, and now you want to charge in on a fight alone. Excuse me. You helped disguise me. You chose what I wore and how I styled my hair. I even let you drag me to the mall. You just broke me out of jail, and I heard you out. I even went with you back to here. She started. I began. I just want what's best for you, we both said at the same time. I stared into her eyes in realization. She and I wanted the same thing for each other, by having each other do the opposite of what we're doing. Hey, you guys, we heard Michelle say. I walked over to her, leaving Jasmine standing in silence. What's up? I asked, sitting next to her. I was going to suggest hearing Jasmine out, she said nervously. Fine, Jazz, shoot, I said, annoyed. Jasmine turned around. Lypye, I need your skills as a pickpocket. How do you know I have that skill? I asked, crossing my arms. She can read minds, Michelle blurted out. What? I started. Never mind that, she continued. I need you to get the keys from King. How? I questioned. My guess is that King didn't want the Syara Team to know he betrayed you. Get him to play along with that idea. She walked over to my side. Only one problem. The keys will make noise, I pointed out. She raised her eyebrows, smirking. No, they won't. I stared at her, confused. My eyes slowly widened as I realized what she was saying. No, not happening. I can't do that. And I can't let you go in alone, she responded. I, for one, like the plan. My question is, how do you get the keys from Lypye to the cage without being spotted? She'll ask. Jasmine paused for a second. Maybe you could cut the power. Make it dark enough to use my powers on the key and open the cage without being spotted. Wait a second. Why can't you use your powers on the lock and not worry about the key? I asked. That cage neutralizes all powers. Even if that's not on the outside, I'm sure there's a defense mechanism with using powers on a cage that neutralizes them. If not, I would need to know what lock I'm dealing with or stare into the keyhole, she explained. I grabbed Jasmine's shoulder. Are you sure you want to do this? She smiled, with a look of determination in her eyes. You're my sister by adoption, but these are your blood-related siblings. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to help you save them. We looked over at Michelle. She smiled. I'm always willing to help. I looked over Michelle's shoulder. Pull up the cam for the roof. She did as I asked, zooming in on that specific camera. I pointed at the camera. There, the door. That door leads to the west side of the roof. There used to be one roof with a staircase leading to a tower or the meeting room for City Hall, but King and I knocked it down. It fell in the center of the roof. Instead of cleaning out the rubble, they switched it to a hallway between the two roofs. 4 pillars stood at the front of each roof, honoring the 8 people who lost their lives in the collapse. Would you feel better if I stayed behind that door? Jasmine asked mockingly. I rolled my eyes. Of course I would. Grabbing her wrist, I pulled her outside. Let's go.